Hi Farah, my name is Ellen and I will be correcting this set of essays for you today. So I understand that you are going to sit the IELTS for the first time. So wonderful, great job, good luck. Let's take a look and see what you have written for us today. We've got the school subject preferences in New South Wales. So let's see what you said. But it's not a bar chart, first of all, it's a pie chart. So make sure that you refer to it correctly, okay? All right, so the presented pie chart illustrates, because it illustrates it now, the school educational subject interests in 2 certain years of New South Wales. Okay, it's okay. It's a little awkward. I would have liked to see this written a little more cleanly, if I can say that. Why don't we try this? The pie chart illustrates the interest in school subjects, or how about the preferences in school subjects in, what are the years? In 2014 and 2018 in New South Wales. Okay? Now, this is okay to copy. I know a lot of people are concerned that, oh, well, I'm not allowed to copy the language in the prompt. Well, part of that is true, but part of that is also untrue. You are allowed to use whatever is here in the actual diagram. That is okay. You are allowed to use it. So there's no issue there. What you are advised not to do is take language directly from the question itself, from the prompt itself, and copy sections of text. So for example, if it said in the prompt, the school educational subject interests, then I would advise you not to copy that word for word or even close to word for word in your task. So that's pretty much where this all comes in. Okay. But yes, that's how I suggest writing that first introduction. All right, let's take a look at what you wrote further down. Overall, the preferences of school towards geography decreased dramatically. On the other hand, in PE, courses interest rose incredibly, whereas school subject preferences in math, physics, and biology showed slightly changes over 2 certain years. Okay, what I'm seeing here is some problems of grammar. Let's talk about that. So here, this isn't really particularly clear. It creates some incoherence. The preferences of school. The school itself doesn't have preferences, but it's the students who show preferences in here. So this is a rather awkward way of saying it. So again, let's try to rephrase it. So overall, the preference towards geography decreased dramatically. On the other hand, in PE, interest, well, not even in PE, interest rose, but how about, on the other hand, interest in PE rose. You don't want to say incredibly. This isn't really considered task 1 language. So, rose exponentially, rose, you can say it skyrocketed, how else could it rise? Rose, you already said decreased dramatically, so we don't want to use that again. Rose significantly, you could say, all right? And then here you had a grammatical issue because whereas cannot function on its own. It needs to be part of a larger sentence that has 2 contrasting elements. So here it was just a fragment on its own like this, okay? You could have said here, rather than saying whereas, you could have just said additionally, school subject preferences in maths, physics, and biology slowed slight changes over the 2 years. Okay? Over the 2 years of question, or you could refer to it as a 4-year period because I think there's 4 years between them, yes? So you could do that, all right? So, again here, remove the word school because it just makes it a little confusing. So let's just start with this. Firstly, preference was highest towards geography in 2014, but after 3 years, there could not interested in geography. Their preference percentage moved lower to 3.7. Now here, unfortunately, because of the grammar, the sentence has become incoherent. I don't know who this there is. It's rather confusing. So we're going to have to clean it up a little bit. Also, it would be good if, since you're talking about the highest figure in the pie chart, to tell us what the figure is. I mean, this is the kind of information that you do want to supply. So I can't really make out that number. So let me just increase it a little. Oops, wait, wrong button. Just give me a minute. 27.7 from the looks of it. Okay. So, let's try that. So firstly, preference was highest towards geography in 2014 at 27.7%, but after 3 years, this dropped considerably to 3.7%. Okay. Meanwhile, 8.7 of school subject preference in 2014 was for PE. However, interest towards PE, get rid of course, became higher. And, all right, that's a little awkward, accomplished preferences percentage. So interest towards PE became higher and recorded a percentage of 22.2%. So it was 8.7. Let me just double check your figures. Yeah, okay, great. So you're basically talking to me about the two things that changed the most. Fine. Secondly, IT and history, you don't have to say subjects, just leave them like that. Secondly, IT and history were not in high demand in 2014 as compared to 2018. All right, that's very nice. After that, these courses, well, you can't say that they gradually climbed. Even though grammatically that would be correct, not this, where gradually climb up. It should have been gradually climbed. But you can't talk about a gradual climb here because gradual climb implies over time where we see this happening slowly. We don't have that information. We only have these 2 years here. So we know what it was in 2014, we know what it was in 2018. So instead, we can say something different. After that, these courses rose in the preferences to about 5.8. Well, it's not about, it's exactly. So rose to 5.8 and 10.9 respectively. Additionally, 1% of the educational system preferred chemistry in 2014. In contrast, comma, in 2018, the preferences of chemistry vanished completely. Okay, let's see. I'm noticing something here. Okay, I'll tell you what I noticed. You had this paragraph where you talked about geography and you talked about PE. All right, so fine. And then here you talked about IT and history. You also talked about chemistry. But nowhere in your detailed paragraphs did you talk about maths, physics, and biology. You mentioned them here very briefly in your overview and then never mentioned them again. Now, what is the purpose of your overview? The purpose of your overview is to give the overall, the main trend. It's to give the thing that sticks out most obviously to us. But that doesn't mean that just because you talk about something in your overview that you never mention it again. In fact, far from it. In your detailed paragraphs, you then have to talk in further detail about some aspect of what you mentioned in your overview. Okay? So you weren't necessarily done with maths, physics, and biology just because you mentioned them very briefly in here, okay, in your overview. In fact, I would have even suggested to get this out of your overview. I don't think it truly belongs here. I think that the other pieces of information you included in your overview were more appropriate. whereas we're not really typically concerned in our overview with something that shows very little change, okay? So I would have taken this whole sentence and probably put it down here somewhere, but it would have been helpful if you had included the percentages as well when you put it in your detail paragraphs. Okay, does that make sense? So just this is a little bit of coherence and cohesion, how we organize our ideas, the logical progression and the logical ordering of our ideas. Okay, so that's the kind of area of the scoring that this is dealing with a little bit. All right, but for me, one of the really big problems here is with the grammar. So that's something I need you to look at. All right, so let's take a look at your international marketing essay. Okay, so let me just decrease this a tiny bit. There we go. Some people believe that global marketing is not completely impressive, and sometimes it is not good for countries' affairs. On the other hand, it is frequently believed that it is a significant for economical form of education to spreading ideas, languages, cultural morals, and actions. In my opinion, it is important international marketing for giving awareness towards languages, barriers, and cultural differences, acts, and morals. Okay, so here's the good news. The good news is that you have structured your introduction very well. This is the information that you need to include in your introduction, from the rephrasing of the task to the showing the other side of the issue and then mentioning your position. So that was good. Unfortunately, here again, there is a big problem with grammar. So that's going to create an issue here. Your introduction is really important because it's the first impression that the examiner gets of your writing. And so you want this paragraph to be as accurate as possible, okay? Let's see. And also, some of the words were not really quite appropriate, like impressive is definitely not the right word here. Let's see how I can help you kind of rewrite this. Some people believe that international marketing is not completely welcome, and sometimes it is not good for countries with an apostrophe after the S affairs. On the other hand, it is frequently believed that it is significant as an economical form of education. Careful though, because that's exactly what's written in the prompt. Okay, so you would need to rephrase that. On the other hand, it is frequently believed that it is a valuable source of education as it helps spread ideas, language, and culture. Again, a little too close to this, but that's okay for the time being. In my opinion, it is important. No, in my opinion, international marketing is important in providing awareness towards languages and cultural differences. Okay, so you can see I really had to change a lot here. Let's move on. Firstly, I strongly believe that international marketing is beneficial for countries, apostrophe, affairs, in that, don't just use a comma here, it's not enough, in that it substantially helps substantially helps creating an economical form of education by creating awareness and spreading ideas. I mean, I'm trying to kind of help rewrite this while I read it. In addition, international companies are adamant about giving ideas to different cultures, which helps them to understand it correctly and properly. For instance, not using, of billboards, supporting videos, and channels by news, which contains specific general ideas for education, culture, language. All right, there is a couple things happening here, Farah. It's underdeveloped. Okay, again, grammar is creating some issues. There's some incoherence. This was a fragment. It's not a full sentence, so you need to be careful with that. Let's see. Okay, so as I said, it's grammar is definitely a problem, but also your development is a problem. It's not properly structured. All right, so basically every well-developed paragraph needs several features. It needs a good topic sentence, which presents a central idea. It needs at least one main idea, which directly responds to the question. And that main idea needs to be developed with some sort of explanation, some sort of example, some sort of further analysis of your main idea. And that's not happening here. And you can even just looking at this tell that it's underdeveloped because it's the same length as your introduction. Okay, so that's a sign, just like visually, you can tell that this is underdeveloped, and without even having read this, I can tell the same thing because it's actually shorter than your introduction. Okay, so let's take a look at what you wrote there. Secondly, some people believe, well, this shouldn't be secondly, this should be, these are two opposite sides, so you needed a different linker here. Some people like on the one hand and on the other hand, which is appropriate if you're talking about two different sides of an issue. So, on the other hand, some people believe that international marketing without the sometimes seems to show undesirable and harmful effects which can easily influence a country. For instance, normally global marketing companies offer cost high demand, that's unclear, and pay employees effectively, which helps to make their customers to act sometimes harmful. All right, so again, grammar is an issue here. Again, it's underdeveloped. This is a paragraph with just two sentences, and it's just not appropriately developed, okay? So it definitely needed more here. It needed some of the elements that I already said right before we got to this paragraph, okay? So let's take a look at your conclusion. On the whole, I believe, not I suppose, I believe international marketing is important for spreading ideas, knowledge, culture, and language. Conversely, comma, not distractors, I think you mean detractors, of my opinion, believe that international marketing is not aspiring all the time. It sometimes is seen as invasive and it is sometimes seen as invasive and an intrusion. Okay, so aspiring was the wrong word here. Farah, I see that your language level needs some work. Okay. There was a lot of incoherence here. So you didn't tell us in your email what score you need in order to apply to your university. But from what I understand, you are in an English-speaking country. So I would like to see you improve your overall language level while you're preparing for IELTS, or maybe even before you prepare for IELTS. Because there's really quite a bit of incoherence here, and I think that you'll find IELTS a lot easier if your language level overall improves first. So like I said, the one option that you have, however, is to, while you are, improving your overall language skills, is to work with us, especially through our online course, which covers all the aspects of the exam. I think that would be a very good option for you. So see if that's something you are able to do, and I want to wish you lots and lots of luck.